Okay, an important addition to your amygdala small. But do you have any questions that you want? Is there anything that you want to say right now about? Or good, we're fine then. But it'd be okay to ask, or at the end we'll have time to ask. But this eye contact, it's really important when you talk to anyone to use this strong eye contact or an eye bridge. I call it an eye bridge. And I want us to think. I wish I should have brought some of my toys. I didn't bring any toys. Can I borrow this from you? I would use a koosh ball or something instead. But I want you to think in terms of when you talk to someone that, oh, whoops, don't do that. That would not be that would be good. That would not be good. So I want you to picture that, like here are like your eyes, and anybody, whoever you're talking to, their eyes. And like when we talk to somebody, it's like we make a bridge between my eyes and your eyes, and my words are going to walk. So we have this bridge. My words are going to walk across that bridge, and then your words are going to walk across that bridge to get into my brain. And what happens if I'm saying, oh, I'm so glad y'all are here. This is really fun. Am I making a good eye bridge? No. What happened to the eye bridge? It broke. Oh my gosh, it broke. And what happened to all of our words? Yes, they all fell down into the water. And guess who was in the water? Is this vicious-looking alligator. Sherry, I need you over here drawing. This alligator is what's he doing to our words? He's eating them up. And, you know, there's also this terrific-looking shark that is eating up our words, too. And so do you think you can, what if in school, I want you, like if you're a student, I want you to like glue your eyes to your teacher. Glue your eyes. Because do you think you can learn as well if all the teacher's words are getting eaten up by sharks and alligators? You can't learn as well that way. And I want it to be so that you learn the very most during class by gluing your eyes to your teacher and getting every word into your brain, because the more you learn in class, the less time you have to study in homework. I want you to get your homework done faster so you can play and do the things you love. Would you rather be doing homework for hours or doing what you love? Yes. What now? Oh, okay. Well, then you can do it. Yeah, I enjoyed, but I still like doing other things. I don't know, do what you love. If you love the homework, I think that's awesome too. Do what you love, because it'll keep your amygdala happy. And so this eye bridge is just, and so when you talk to your teacher, like when you advocate for yourself, I want you to go in there looking confident. Can you sit like you're really not confident. Sit pitiful. Yeah, just sit pitiful. And like if you're, and so then what if you sit like you're really interested? Yes, really interested. And that's the way I want you, our whole body is going to tell our teacher that we really mean this. Or our friend, we'll make friends better this way. It's a way to make friends, because they'll know that we're really listening to them. Our words will get into their brain, and vice versa. So we kind of already talked about that. It lets a person know that what you're saying is worth hearing. I think sometimes, do you ever notice that some people sometimes will kind of talk like this, like they might kind of talk to you like, it gives you the feeling that they don't think what they're saying is worth much. Have you ever noticed that about anybody? And I think that they feel kind of discouraged maybe, and it gives the other person the feeling that what they're saying, that they don't think they're worth much. And I think that I'm not a bullying expert, but I think that brings on bullying. People just kind of kick you when you're down. And I think if you look pitiful, if you let your body language make you look like, oh my gosh, I'm just pitiful, that you're more apt to be bullied, I think, or to be to not be, people aren't going to be clamoring for your presence. I think if you look like you don't think you're worth much. So I want our body language and our eye bridge to show that we're worth it. And this thing about make sure your words get across the bridge. I want you to picture that sometimes people just don't talk loud enough. Maybe they don't project. And we'll take a koosh ball or something, and Sherry, if you'll be my koosher, and we'll throw the ball across, and we'll talk across the bridge. We're going to say, I'm going to make my words go all the way. So I'm going to do them loud. Can you do them?
All the way back.
Yes, yay, thank you. A koosh ball would be a better tool than this. But to picture, what if I was going to throw it way back to Gladys? And try not to hit anybody in the head. But I want you to think in terms of that you're going to make them go, let's say all the way. Like picture it has to go from me to Gladys in the very back. Let's say all the way with real loud. All the way. I was so afraid of hitting somebody. I'm sorry. Hey, James, I almost hit you. I'm so sorry. I'm glad I didn't. That would have been fun, huh? But you know, if you were to back up and get a lot of space between you, I would practice with a koosh ball and not a pen, and throwing and talking about all the way. Can we all say again, all the way? Yeah. And Gladys, what if you say something to me really pitifully quiet and just let it fall at your feet? Like all the way back. Yes. So I would do something like that with, I would get the child or the student to say, okay, show me how you can do it just pitifully and show me how far the words got. And they just say like all the way, and it just goes that far. And I say, oh my gosh, it got eaten by the alligators. So it's not just for your eye bridge, but it's also for your words to get there. And it makes you helps you to make this emotional connection. I had a student years ago when we lived in Mobile, and he was a teenager, and I saw him one day, and I told him about the eye bridge. I was seeing him actually for a whole other issue, but he just did not use eye contact, and it makes you look very insecure, whether or not you are, but people get the feeling that you're not secure feeling. And so I told him about it, and we went through this. And the next week when he came back, he just, out of the blue, he just said, I've been happier this week. And I said, why? And he said, because I've been making an eye bridge with people. I've been looking at people. Because it's that emotional connection. Try to picture, if you went through all day and never looked at people's eyes, it's really isolating. It's isolating. And so that emotional thing is really important. And like this another student in Mobile, I remember the mother writing me a letter and saying that all these different things I'd worked on helped a lot, but she said, but this part is what changed our lives. This social emotional part. To hold on to their eyes. And in reading, I like for you to think about too, to make an eye bridge. This is just a little aside, but again, like that student that read invention instead of invitation, I will teach the student to make an eye bridge with every vowel, because every vowel that you hear, every time you hear a vowel, you're hearing another syllable. So if the student will just practice, we'll just do a little game called Dot Your Vowels, and just to get used to making your eye go to every vowel, and we'll just dot with a colored marker under every vowel and just sort of play with it to just practice. If you work your way through a syllable that way, you'll get it and you won't have to guess. If you look at like on invitation, just picture if you have invitation in front of you, and I want you to like dot every vowel. While you say the syllable, let's say invitation. Or if it was like serendipity, what if we do serendipity? If you can picture that you're just looking for every vowel, your brain, if you're at a certain level, it's going to grab the rest of the syllables and you'll get it. So that's just a reading thing. Now, I want to think about, there are other factors that increase learning power, like diet, rest, and exercise. And we're not going to really talk a lot about this. This is not, but I just am very interested in it. If eating, you need to keep your blood sugar level up by eating nutrient-dense snacks, like healthy snacks throughout the day, and drinking water every hour, sipping on water all day, because it helps your brain connections to keep working. And then that deep sleep, like rapid eye movement sleep, that deep sleep consolidates memories. Like if you study, you should study ahead, but right before you go to bed, you should study what you want. If there's something real important, study it right before you go to sleep, and your brain will work on forming those memories while you sleep. And how many people would like to just learn it while you sleep? Yeah, and it really works. I mean, this is proven stuff. And I have references,
When I was taking calculus, I remember that one thing I used to do.
And can y'all hear back there? Or
when
what
I was taking calculus, what I used to do was I found the best way to do it was I would study and I'd go through and I'd work every problem. And just before I'd go to bed, I don't know what happened, but I would work on every problem just before I'd go to sleep. And when I'd wake up in the morning, I'd wake up with the answers. I would go through and finish up the problems. So I'd work on the ones I couldn't get and save them and work on them just before I went to sleep. And somehow, during the sleeping process, I would be able to come up with the answers.
Isn't that amazing? And how many of y'all have had that kind of experience? You wake up with thoughts that problems you might have been trying to figure out, and you might wake up with the thoughts. Yeah, that's awesome.
If I didn't work on those problems before I went to bed, if I just decided, well, I'll work on them in the morning, I couldn't get them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you told us that. That's very awesome. And because it just works and it's painless. Because if you stayed up all night being frustrated with them,
you wouldn't get it.
yeah. And then exercise increases blood flow to the brain and wakes up the brain. John Rady wrote this book called Spark, and he is with another man that wrote it with him. Let's see. But it's a revolutionary new science of exercise and the brain, and it talks about the power of exercise to improve reading and math and emotional. Like he has all these chapters in there. Like the first, if you would just read the introduction and first chapter of Spark, you'll be just amazed, because that'll pretty much give you the gist of the book. He tells a study of up in Connecticut or somewhere where this school was like just failing. I mean, it was really at the rock bottom of the world in reading and math. And all the school did for this study was they added 0-period class and had the students run. You know, with a monitor on them. They had them run for like 45 minutes maybe and sweat. And their reading and math scores went to second in the world, like only under like Japan or Korea, South Korea, whoever is like first. I mean, it sounds like that couldn't happen, but that's what this study said. And John Rady's a psychiatrist that wrote it. So you ought to read that book. I mean, if teachers, and some teachers will do this. I know I have a friend who, her 5th grade grandson, the teacher would do jumping jacks, which I'm afraid I'm going to lose some of this, but they would do jumping jacks at the beginning of each class for just 5 or 10 jumping jacks or something. And then the next year the teacher didn't let him do that, and he made a comment about how he missed that. And it doesn't seem like it'd be too hard, would it, as a teacher, let them just get up and just do 5 jumping jacks? Or any time that they seem to be lagging, like a minute ago when I thought y'all were lagging, I could have gotten y'all to get up and do 5 jumping jacks. But I love to get up in the morning right out of bed and do like 20 push-ups and a bunch of jumping jacks. And it just, my brain goes, doing, it wakes you up. And another student who I talked to, she was taking her ACT for the second time and had done really poorly before on it. And I talked to her about these self-talk things, and I told her that the morning, when she got up to go to take the ACT, to dance that morning or to run. I told her just do whatever you love, to run or dance. And so she did, and she got up and put on music, real peppy music, and danced. And she raised her ACT score like significantly. I mean, that wasn't the only thing she did. Also, we talked to her about the self-talk, and I told her just to tell herself whatever she needed. And so 2 of the things she told herself, that she would always get real anxious about running out of time. And she told me one thing she told herself was, a minute is longer than it seems. And so she told herself that while she was taking the ACT. And she would also tell herself, if I could pass my driver's test, I can do this. And so that was just something that was important to her, that meant something. So I want you to make up your own self-talk, whatever seems important to you. But so John Rady said, what if we read this together? You have the power to change your brain. All you have to do is lace up your running shoes. And I just think that was so good. And we're getting very close to we're not going to do a whole lot more, and we're going to stop and have questions or just be finished. But other editions, now, like books with positive self-talk, like The Little Engine That Could. You know, I want, you know, those kinds of books, or like The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, and like movies such as Facing the Giants and Remember the Titans and Rudy. Actually, I've seen none of them. I mean, because people, I'm so movie deficient. But are those all encouraging kind of movies? That you, yeah. So if you think of other books or movies, tell them to me. Email me. And I want to hear from y'all. I would love to hear if these ideas help you. And I'm going to do a webinar in April 16th that'll be, that so people could, I mean, it's the same topic, so you don't need to hear it again, but if you think somebody would like to, they could sign up through the IDA Alabama, that the International Dyslexia Association Alabama.org. It's like Tuesday night, April 16th, but they've already got over 70 people signed up, and I don't know how many can. So, you know, but if people want to, and it's free, so I'll be doing this same thing. Okay. But if you have other ideas, let me know, and please let me know if this helps you. And then like just inspirational movies that show people who don't give up. And then other editions, this is where it's not like I'm really qualified to say these things, but I used to pass out a lot, so I guess that qualifies me. I used to pass out a lot because I didn't eat enough. I didn't eat frequently enough, so I think I'm hypoglycemic. And I would pass out if they would just prick my finger. Or even I passed out when I was in speech pathology, you know, in school, and I was just being shown a slideshow about burn patients and the speech issues, and I passed out in the slideshow. And I passed out in surgery when I was trying to watch a cleft palate surgery, and I passed out when they just gave the shot to start. And I tried to watch laryngectomy surgery. I never made it very far there either. And so I guess I'm qualified that so I have, and I think part of it was I didn't eat enough. You need to eat frequently throughout the day. That's why I've always got food with me. If you're ever hungry, come to me. And that I have to be sure that I keep breathing. That's the thing that I think, to notice your breathing. If you get anxious, what I figured out that I did, I would kind of hold my breath a little. Can you picture that? If you get anxious, you might kind of start breathing real shallow or something, or hold your breath, and it makes it worse. It makes it worse. You might pass out. And then to practice just relaxing your face and shoulders. Like I like to do yoga, but just drop the muscles. Do you ever have a feeling that you're kind of hold everything up tight for a second? Like, do you ever feel kind of like you're uptight? But that's what, and then just purposely drop it. I just think that's important. And just practice deep relaxation all over while you talk kindly to your brain, like in hypnosis. Just picture that you're untying the tightness in all your muscles. Does this seem silly that I'm telling you this part? Or good, well, good, because I think it's just part of the whole picture of keeping your brain. How do we want to keep our amygdala? Happy, yes. And so I just think it's really important. And while you're telling your brain these positive thoughts, in fact, a time that I use this with a head injury. A boy who was 15 years old, and he was in a wreck, and he was in a coma for 6 weeks, and they did not think he was going to live. And I saw him. They had been trying to help him to get speech. He had gotten no speech. When I saw him, he was 6 months out, and he had no voice. But he was very smart, and he had a little alphabet board that he just kept in his back pocket, and he spelled out on it, "I can talk, but I forgot how." What if this was your 15-year-old who was a normal, smart boy, and he had no voice. He had no voice, but he was drooling, he was real awkward, because he had brain injury. But he was still smart. He had hear. And so I worked with, and he had not got, and they had finally let him, discharged him from the rehab center where he was, and because they just couldn't, he just couldn't get any voice. He had no voice. And so they just gave up. I mean, you have to give up eventually, maybe, I don't know. But so these are kind of distant friends of my husband, not distant from him, but friends that asked me, they said, "Well, would you come over, Hetty, and just see if maybe you can help?" And I said, "Well, I'll come and try." And so I went there on a Sunday afternoon, and we sat at his kitchen table and with the dad here, and he's drooling all over the table and just not getting anything. And I did all the speech pathology things I know to do to get the vocal folds to adduct to come together, like you push, just like something heavy. It physiologically makes your vocal cords come together, but nothing worked. But guess what I did the whole time? I said, you're breathing. That was the only thing he was doing right. You're pushing. I could say, because I'm using this positive, but I hadn't thought of the SPY yet. This was about 20 years ago. Well, no, I thought 10 years ago. But I would say, you're pushing. Good, you're pushing. But nothing was really happening. But what if I'd been saying, well, nope, that wasn't it. Nope, that wasn't it. Nope. I'd have been saying that for a whole hour. So for 3 weeks, I did this with him, and I never got it. Never got any voice. And then after that, I thought, okay, either I've got to tell him that I'm sorry, I can't get it, or I've got to think out of the box here. And so that next time I went to see him, we prayed together for one thing. We prayed together, which he had been praying and I had been praying, but we prayed together. And I said, okay, we're not going to work in the kitchen this time. We're going to go in the den. So we went in the den, and I always had one of the parents with us, and the mother's sitting in the chair, and he and I laid down on the floor and just laid on our back. And I said, and this is like this hypnosis idea is what made me think. But I'm telling him, I talked us through that we're on the beach, and you're just hear the waves crashing, and then I would go, because I wanted him to just go, because he had gotten no voice, no voice. And I didn't quite get it, but then I said, okay, we're going to pretend that we're on a raft floating, and we've crashed on the, going through the same thing, and you just feel the warmth, and you hear the waves. And then I said, well, we're going to try to do push-ups, so because he could kind of do them. And I thought with the pushing, and after many times, he actually got kind of on the inhalation. And so after he got it after he started getting it more, then I had a deck of cards laying on the floor with me that were going to be just something to count. Yes, yes, yes. So by the end of that session, he had gotten like 50, over a whole deck, 50 something of, and so we did that 2 sessions, Monday and Wednesday that week. So then I went back the next Monday thinking, because I was working Monday, Wednesdays, I went back and thought, okay, how am I going to get it where I don't want to just, if you can only talk on inhalation, that is not very good. It would be hard, but having to get on exhalation. So when he came with his aunt who was sitting with him, came to the door to let me in, and she said, well, do you have something you want to tell Hetty? And he said, hi. And he had total voice, although it was nasal, because he had brain damage. So it was hi. But so we did what it took. I kind of tricked it out of him, because sometimes the harder there's called apraxia with this kind of issue. Apraxia is when the harder you try, the farther away you're going to get. So when he kind of knew what I was after, we weren't getting there. But when I just kind of tricked it out of him. So I want you to think of that for your students. Trick stuff out. If you get relaxed and trick it out. And then I used a CPAP machine on him, because I wanted him to get even better, because he still was couldn't understand him very well, but he had total voice. So you had the raw material. So I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to get this CPAP machine that I just heard about, that you could practice. If anybody ever uses one, it blows cold air into your nose. And so we practiced talking against that blast of air. And it's like giving your soft palate, it's like putting weights on your soft palate to force it to go up so you won't be as nasal. And so it really helped me get better. And then I said, okay, we're going to make a talk together at the State Speech and Hearing Association in Mobile, and you're going to make it with me. And I thought, that's going to get him to really do his best, and he did. And I have it on video, and he had everybody laughing and crying, because he got up there saying, thank you, because he was still nasal, but you could understand everything. Thank you, speech pathologist. I want to thank you, because I couldn't be here if it wasn't for you. His parents were crying, everybody's crying. And so I want you to wipe I can't out of your brain and do what it takes. Does that make sense? Trick it out, even if it's tricky. And then, like, nourish your strengths and talents. I want you to do whatever you love, like taekwondo. I think is a good, martial arts I think are really good if you happen to have a teacher who's real, they're real into self-confidence. I don't know, but just anything you love, art, anything, music, anything. Like Henry Winkler, the Fonz, when he was in high school, think how good he is as an actor. Well, they wouldn't let him be on the drama team because of his grades. And how sad was that? Because that was, you need to nourish your strength. And instead, he couldn't read, and he was just, trying to hide it. So do whatever you love and develop your talents. And then,
so what
would you, okay, 45 seconds if you don't know this.
For one thing, sound. Inside is a computer that remembers everything you write, draw, and hear. You can play back what was recorded through the Pulse's built-in speaker or headphones. First, tap the record button on your notebook, and the Pulse Smart Pen begins recording everything you write and hear. Write or draw what you need. Then tap the stop button to finish recording. Later, you can replay the audio linked to your notes by tapping on them, so you never miss a word. First, tap the record button. Never miss a word. Pretty smart, huh?
Could you hear that okay? And do any of y'all have a LiveScribe pen? It would, the picture, if you had this, how neat would that be? That you could take, your notes don't have to be notes. They could be pictures, or they could just be drawings. They could be a keyword. But later you could go back and just touch any word in your lecture, and you would hear the lecture at that point. Would that be useful sometime? Yeah. So that could be kind of a stress buster to keep your amygdala happy. Does that make sense? And you can, they're like $120, I think, at office supply stores or Office Max, places like that, maybe Target. And then I've just got tons of books. So the rest of it is all about the books, and you've got those. But what if, I'm going to give you this pretty thing. This is like a bright new day with a happy amygdala and an open brain. Do y'all have, I just thank you so much for being here. Because like my husband always says, that if people just knew, I would pay them to let me talk. And well, speaking of my husband, I can't step on that. I was one time years ago, I was on the phone at supper time, and I was telling this parent, I was being so professional, you know, and telling her, oh yes, tell your child, you know, I can do that, and get her to think positive. And my husband, while I'm trying to be so professional, he stands up on the chair, and he says, I can so, but I can just see y'all flying and succeeding. But if any, you'll be able to find them.
Bookstore still is carrying kids.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, how to talk to kids.
Oh, good. And this book is, I've just discovered, is really good by Richard Selznick, and it's in your books. But the one is called The Shutdown Learner, which is just so perfectly what I'm talking about, although I just discovered it like a few weeks ago. But The Shutdown Learner, and then this one called School Struggles, A Guide to Your Shutdown Learner Success, and also a book that you've got in your list on that first page by Schultz that is called Nowhere to Hide, Why Kids with LD and ADHD Hate School and What We Can Do About It. And it's really good. And he talks about we don't talk about the amygdala spot because I made that up, but he talks about the amygdala and the stress and how it shuts you down. And he's excellent too. But y'all are wonderful to be here. I very much appreciate it. So thank you. Tell it really loud.
Okay, one thing I used to do too, also when I was going through college, there were some courses you really hate, you know, and you're like, I hate it. Well, you know, and I would sit there and I'd be like, I hate this. No, I love this. I love this. And you know what? It would turn me around, and I would actually fall in love with the class.
Wow.
I could actually love the class. I actually love chemistry. I actually did very good in organic chemistry because I kept telling myself, I love this. Until I actually believed
good. Isn't that, that's awesome, it worked.
Yeah, it actually worked because then the other kids would, and I said, well, I just tell myself I love it, and you know, because they would want to know how can they do as well as I was doing, you know. So.
I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
And you love your teachers too, and all the hard teachers, you love them, and you know what? When they start feeling that coming, they'll start loving you too.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, treat the teacher like you treat them like you
wash it off for some reason. Put those back on.
Yeah. Well, and Molly, you can go to coffee shops and hear Molly sing her own material at coffee shops that she writes and sings. Yeah, because I want at the end. I'm glad you said that. Like at the end of the day, I'd like for people's brains to have. I want you to have the same kind of happy feeling in your brain in school that you have when you're doing your favorite thing. Like what if your favorite thing is art? I'd like to say, what would it feel like if your whole day at school was art, or Legos, or soccer, or gymnastics? And whatever, when the student's face always lights up when I say, what if school was all gymnastics? I mean, if that was your favorite thing, that's the way I want you. If your brain feels that way, if you can make it feel, you know, happy with it, like it feels happy then, that's going to make the difference. But I will stop talking. Thank you.